Have you ever thought about like where some of the biggest ideas come from? Like those real game changers.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes they show up in the most unexpected places.
For sure. For sure.
And that's kind of what we're doing today.
Oh, okay,
We're
cool.
diving into AI, artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
but we're taking a really different approach.
Interesting.
We're looking at it through this fictional podcast script called The AI Takeover.
The AI takeover.
And here's the twist.
Okay.
The host is interviewing a ghost
A ghost.
named Radha about AI.
Wow. Okay, so we're getting like a spectral perspective on AI.
Yeah, exactly. And what I find so fascinating is that by using this kind of, imaginative dialogue,
Yeah.
we can explore these really important, real questions about the future of AI,
Right. Right.
but in a way that almost like sidesteps some of the, typical, maybe even like rigid ways we usually talk about it.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
So for everyone listening, what we're trying to do here is really extract the core of what this unconventional viewpoint tells us
Okay.
about AI's power to change the game and what could be coming next.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, so we're going to be touching on how AI could shift society, how it could change the way we work, even some pretty fun, spectral predictions about the future.
From the ghost's mouth to our ears.
Exactly, all coming straight from this conversation with a ghost.
I'm intrigued. Let's jump in.
Okay, cool. So right off the bat, Radha makes this really interesting comparison. She compares AI to the new printing press.
Mm.
So what do you think is so striking about that analogy?
Well, when you think about the printing press, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't just about making books cheaper or anything like that.
Right.
It was really a fundamental shift in how information spread, who had access to it.
Right.
It basically reshapes society.
Yeah.
And Radha's analogy, what it suggests is that AI could have that same kind of like just foundational impact. And not just in one area.
Right.
Across many, like healthcare, education, entertainment. The script hints at all of these.
Right.
So it's about democratizing capabilities, maybe, the same way the printing press democratized knowledge.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And speaking of like widespread impact,
Yeah.
I know a big question for a lot of people is how AI will affect jobs.
Right.
And the script doesn't shy away from this at all.
Okay.
What's Radha's take on this, on the possibility of jobs being displaced?
So Radha offers this really interesting counter-narrative.
Okay.
She acknowledges that, yeah, there is the potential for job losses.
Yeah.
But she also emphasizes that historically, whenever we've had these big tech shifts,
Yeah.
they've also led to the creation of new kinds of work.
Hmm.
And her advice is basically adapt and learn, which is super important to remember.
Adapt and learn.
Yeah, think about the internet, right?
Yeah.
It definitely eliminated some jobs.
Right.
But it also created entire new industries.
Yeah, it did. Absolutely.
And even though it's meant to be funny, her own transition to being a ghost really highlights this idea that things are always changing.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good point. It's like looking at the bigger historical picture.
Exactly.
But even with this optimistic outlook, Radha also cautions us against losing the human touch.
Yeah.
As AI becomes more, integrated into our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So what's at the heart of that concern, do you think?
What I find fascinating there is that she's putting a spotlight on skills that are uniquely human.
Okay.
In a world where things are becoming more and more automated.
Yeah.
Her point is that things like empathy, complex problem solving that needs that human nuance,
Right.
even creativity that comes from actual lived experience,
Yeah.
these are all going to become even more valuable.
Yeah.
So it really makes you stop and think, what are those fundamental aspects of human interaction and contribution that AI might just not be able to replicate?
Right.
And how do we make sure those things stay important, that we value them?
It's almost like a reminder to remember what makes us human,
Right.
even as technology keeps advancing at this crazy pace.
Exactly.
Okay, so now the script gets a little bit more, well, shall we say, out there.
Haha. Yeah.
Radha starts talking about the future.
Okay.
And she even suggests that in like 100 years, we might have AI-powered ghost assistants.
Whoa, AI ghost assistants? That's a new one.
Yeah. So what do you make of this kind of like far-out futuristic thinking?
Well, it's funny.
It is funny.
But it actually serves a purpose.
Oh, okay.
It pushes us to think beyond just the immediate applications of AI
Right.
and consider the really long-term, potentially like really transformative possibilities.
I see.
Even ideas that seem outlandish can spark important conversations
Yeah.
about, the ethics, how society might change, all because of this really advanced AI that might be down the line.
Right.
It's about opening our minds to a wider range of future scenarios.
I like that. Wider range of future scenarios. And it's interesting because the script even has a whole section called Why It Works.
Yeah.
And it talks about why these ideas, why they resonate with people.
Mm-hmm.
And they mention the humor,
Right.
the historical context, and then those glimpses into the future.
I think it's really smart
Yeah.
because, the whole angle of a ghost talking about AI, it immediately grabs your attention.
For sure.
And then the humor makes these potentially complex ideas easier to understand.
Right. Yeah.
And the printing press analogy, it gives people a framework they can relate to.
Yeah.
And then the futuristic stuff, that ignites curiosity and imagination.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's this clever way of making people think about a topic that's really important, but from a completely fresh perspective.
Yeah, I totally agree. So to wrap things up, we've seen AI presented as this potentially revolutionary force, similar to the printing press.
Right.
We've talked about how it could displace jobs, but also create new ones,
Yeah.
meaning we need to adapt.
Adapt and learn.
And we've talked about how AI makes it even more important to preserve those human qualities.
For sure.
And all of this points to a future that's still wide open, with so many imaginative possibilities.
Yeah.
Which brings us to a really interesting final question for all of you listening.
Okay, hit me.
Given this unique, almost, otherworldly perspective that Rod of the Ghost gives us,
Yeah.
what are some unexpected ways you think AI might reshape our lives in the coming decades?
Yeah. How will it change things in ways we haven't even thought of yet?
Right. It really makes you think about that interplay between technological progress and what it means to be human.
It definitely does.
It's a question worth pondering.
Absolutely.
Food for thought.
Definitely.
That's it for today. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
And as always, keep those minds open.
Keep thinking about the future.
See you next time.
See ya.